So here's another common scenario. We're going to have commentary from someone in the studio about a basketball game. The commentator is being shot against a green screen. We need to composite a chroma key along with a new background and shrink them both into a box so we can listen to their commentary and watch the game at the same time. Let me show you how to build it. So this is the end result that we want to get. We've got our background of the basketball game, and then we have the person that's being chroma keyed, and we have a new background, and they're shrunk into the corner so we can watch the basketball game while they talk to us. So I'm going to clear this out so we can start from scratch again. So the first thing I want to do is turn on key 1. Now key 1, we can see here, has my frame memory that has my chroma key in it. And again, it looks kind of yucky right now because we're not in the right key mode. So let's go over to the multifunction module, select key adjust. We can see that we're on ME1, key 1, and again, the reason it looks kind of yucky is because we're in linear mode. So let's go over to chroma key. So that gives us a nice clean picture. We're going to turn on sample mark right here, and we're going to adjust our sample mark so that it's the biggest that we can make it without touching the person, and we're going to hit auto start. A couple seconds later, the computer comes up with its best guess. We can see that we've got some transparency because she's wearing kind of a greenish aqua blue blouse. So let's fix that problem first. Using our show key feature from the multifunction module here, I'm going to hold this down, and in preview, on edit preview, you can see on my multi-display here, while I'm holding that, I can come into the menu and adjust my chroma key. So let's make sure chroma key selected. And we can see here as I adjust this, you can see the key signal changing. And that looks pretty good about right there. Now again, we can see that we've got kind of a green edge around her. Let's get rid of that. We're going to double press the chroma key button. Takes us to the menu for chroma key for this keyer. I'm going to turn on color cancel. Now the edge is no longer green. It's still there just a tad, but it's no longer green. It's got rid of any green reflections. One more step I want to do to get rid of that edge is I'm going to go back to the key type here by hitting type at the bottom, and I'm going to turn on the key position function. And I'm going to adjust my left and right key position just a little bit to get rid of that edge. So we're going to adjust those, and you can see here, as I'm adjusting right, you can see the edge getting bigger, and now it gets smaller, and now I've got a pretty darn good looking chroma key right here. So first things first, let's put her in the resizer, and we're going to shrink her down into the corner. Now notice that both the chroma key and the resizer are happening on the same keyer. I haven't had to double up any of my resources here. So I'm going to turn on key 2, which is going to be this kind of stadium thing. Yes, I realize this is a soccer stadium and not basketball, but it's the closest thing I have. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in and make sure this is also in the resizer, and we're going to shrink it down. So I have 2 layers here on 2 different keyers. So let's put it about right there, and she's too big. Let's move her down just a little bit. And last but not least, I want to put a border around the resizer here. So I'm going to double press on my trackball the key to resizer. It takes me immediately to the resizer menu. I'm going to hit border and crop. I'm going to turn on border, and I'm going to adjust the all parameter. That's not bad. And then we're going to tweak this just a tad more so that she's sitting right inside that border, and it looks like the border is underneath her. So there is our end result. So now let's store this thing. I'm going to go to a snapshot. I'm going to make sure ME1 is stored as the snapshot because that's where we're doing all of this. And let's go to an empty bank. And I'm going to store this by holding down snapshot, and I'm going to store this in, let's say, 52. So no matter what we do now, we can recall this effect and have it call up. But let's do something really cool. What if we want to start with her over the stadium full screen and have it animate down? So let's use an effects dissolve for that. So first things first, let's go over to the trackball. I'm going to select both key 1 and key 2 on my resizer. I'm going to clear the work buffer by hitting clear work buffer to bring them both full screen. Since I want the border to animate on and not pop on, I'm going to go over to key 2, go back to the resizer menu, hit border crop, go to my border, and I'm going to set my border to 0. Now I'm going to store this on a snapshot as snapshot 51. So right now we can go between 51 and 52, but I want it to animate. So I'm going to recall number 52, go into Edit Enable, and turn on Effects Dissolve for this snapshot. Now when I exit this and go to number 51, it goes there. And when I go to 52, both keyers animate simultaneously to give us a smooth transition. By the way, we can also go to 51 and add an effects dissolve as well. Now we can go back and forth Now let's have a little bit more fun. We're going to take the same type of chroma key, move it on the screen. This time I want to add a rotating logo, and we're going to use keyframes. So here's the end result. I'm using a different chroma key person this time, and I want to move him down and shrink him a little bit to the lower right. And I want to take this rotating logo that's coming out of the clip player on the frame memory, and I want to have it a little bit smaller and down towards the center. But this time we're going to use a keyframe system to get it from full screen down here to add a little more spice than an effects dissolve can do. So let's go ahead and clear our screen out a bit here. And we're going to start from scratch. So the first thing is we're going to get our chroma key again. We're going to do this kind of quickly. Again, I'm going to go over here to Key Adjust, ME1, Key 1, change it to chroma key, turn on my sample mark, adjust it a little bit, and we're going to hit Auto Start. There's our chroma key, and again, I got a little bit of a transparency, so we're going to press chroma key to get my knobs. I'm going to hold Show key. I'm going to adjust my gain a little bit here to get it back, right about there. And I'm going to come over to the chroma key menu, and I'm going to turn on my color cancel to get rid of the blue edge around him. And lastly, I'm going to go to key type, select key position, and I'm going to adjust that right edge just a tad to make his chroma key look really good. Now I'm going to turn on key 2, which is my rotating logo. Now that is behind him. I want it on top of him. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I need to change my key priority. Now there's a couple ways to change this. We've already shown one, which is in the menu, and you get there by double pressing the priority set button on the transition area. And again, we can change this here by changing the priority of key 1 and 2. But you don't have to do this from the menu. You can do it right from the panel. Remember the same priority set button? Well, this time I'm just going to hold down priority set, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So if I want key 2 on top, I'm going to go key 1, then key 2, 3, and 4. You got to finish it. Now you can see that key 2 is now on top of key 1, and the graphic here displays that. So the next thing I want to do is I want to shrink down key 1. So we're going to go over to the resizer, turn on the positioner. We're going to shrink him down to the corner right about, I don't know, say there. All right. We're going to go to key 2, turn its resizer on, shrink it down to about there. Now one thing that I want to show you is another neat little trick. I'm not happy with how his picture looks. So I'm going to double press chroma key on my multifunction module, get me back to the chroma key menu. And I'm going to turn on a feature here called foreground color correction. What foreground color correction lets me do is it lets me adjust the video gain and chroma and things like that after the chroma key has happened. Because honestly, if I try to adjust a regular color corrector, I'm going to be chasing my tail because it's going to adjust the background, which makes me have to readjust all the chroma key parameters. So I turn on foreground color correction, and I want to make him a little brighter. So I'm going to take the video gain, make him a little bit brighter, and I want to give him a little bit more color by adjusting the chroma gain a little bit. There, now he looks like he's had a little bit more sun. So again, now we've got our end position. So I'm going to quickly store this in a snapshot so I don't lose it. I'm going to go over here to bank 6. And I'm going to store this on 61. Now I promised you that we're going to use some keyframes, so let's do that right now. I'm going to take both my keyers, and I'm going to double punch my clear work buffer to get them back up full. And let's start with something else. Let's move key 2 over here to the corner as our starting position. Now, instead of going up there and storing another snapshot and using an effects dissolve, we're going to go to a timeline effect. So we're going to hit the Effect button right here. Now what it wants me to do now is select my region. ME1 is perfect because that's where I'm going to work. I'm going to go to an empty register. So I'm going to go here to register number 1, and it comes up and tells me 1E as soon as I hit 1. E means it's empty. So I'm going to hit Enter, which is going to take me into keyframe 1. If we look over on the menu area here, you can see that I'm in Effect number 1. ME1 is the main region, and I have keyframe 0 of 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit Enable. Edit Enable here, and all of a sudden my keypad changes to all the editing functions of keyframes. The ones that I'm going to be concerned about right now is INS, or Insert. So I'm going to hit it and insert a single keyframe. You can see up on my menu it now says keyframe 1 of 1. So now I'm going to go up and touch this menu area right where my keyframes are being shown. It's going to take me to the keyframe menu. Let me see a little more graphically what's going on. So right here, I'm going to go ME1, number 1. Here it is. It's showing me one keyframe, and it's showing me where I'm parked right now. So now let's cheat a little bit. I don't want to have to move everything back down to that position again. Remember, I stored it though, so I'm going to recall this. Now, a snapshot and that keyframe effect have nothing whatsoever to do with each other. So it's perfectly legal for me to recall that snapshot as a cheat of where I put everything at, go back to the keyframe menu. By the way, notice it's still in Edit Enable, and hit Insert again to store this. Because what I'm inserting is what's on the screen, nothing else. So notice here on my keyframe menu, I have 2 keyframes now. And I'm going to use the previous and next on my multifunction module to go between them. So there's the previous, that's the first keyframe, keyframe 1. And there's the second keyframe, keyframe 2. Let's go ahead and rewind and run this and watch what happens. Okay, that's all great, and it looks an awful lot like the effects dissolve. So let's do something you can't do when an effects dissolve. We're going to add an additional keyframe to the MVS 3000 portion so that it kind of makes a swoop and we can see a dramatic change between these two things. So I'm going to go over here to my trackball. I'm going to turn off resizer control, and I'm going to go to this button called Run Control. What this is going to do is it's going to jog our timeline manually. So as I use the outside Z ring, you can see on the menu screen here that I'm jogging my timeline. So about right, I don't know, here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert another keyframe. Now, it really didn't do anything on the screen when I inserted that keyframe, but on this display you can see that I've got another arrow which indicates I now have 3 keyframes instead of 2. So what's this going to do for me? Well, what I'm going to do is go back to my resizer control, and I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to put it over here for this keyframe. This will make sense in a second, and I'm going to modify this keyframe. Let's rewind and run and see what happens. Okay, well, that's okay. It kind of, little bit does what I want it to do, but it's kind of robotic. See how it's kind of, everything's bouncing? It looks like a Pong game off to the side of the screen. So we need to do one more thing, and that's change the path that the switcher is using to interpolate between each of these keyframes, because it's going from here to here to here. And right now, it looks very robotic. So let's change that. We're going to rewind to keyframes. We're going to go on this menu down to the path. So that's on the keyframe menu at the bottom. We're going to select path. We're modifying ME1, so we're going to touch ME1. So this all looks very complicated, and it's beyond the scope of this video to explain what every one of these things on the screen means. So we're going to concentrate on the very top row in orange called ME1 All. So if you go to the third column, you can see what looks like a bowling spare from a bowling game. We're going to touch that, and these are the choices that I have for my keyframe paths. And right now you can see that we're on linear. Well, linear looks very robotic. So we're going to go down here and select spline, which is the smoothest type of interpolation. So we're going to go down to the multifunction module and hit All, followed by Mod. And what that did is it said, take the change I just made and apply it to all the keyframes in the effect. Now watch what happens when I run the effect. It's very smooth. See the difference? Very smooth. And if I go back here, back to linear, very robotic. Bounce. And if we go and change it again back to linear, very smooth.